I think the first thing I wanted to get out of the way was I just want to apologize to all the Russian listeners because, apparently I in the Sputnik review, I made it clear that at the time of our recording, I couldn't remember when it was taking place. And the Russia factor looms large where you don't know what decade we're in.
Uh-huh.
But we did get an angry comment from someone, assumably from Russia.
Oh.
Because they were upset that I did not realize that Sputnik translated into English was companion. I did not know that, which would make sense given it's a weird alien parasite movie.
Right.
I assumed it was just a weird, throwback to the satellite, the Russian satellite.
You see,
you know what I mean? So
you see a Russian movie with a dude in an astronaut costume that says Sputnik, which is, I would say probably one of the most famous Russian spacecrafts. I don't
absolutely.
So but I never knew actually that's what the meaning of Sputnik was. So that's pretty clever.
Well, what a weird thing to call it, right?
Oh yeah. Well, it makes sense. If I spoke Russian, I feel like I would get the pun a lot quicker and everything like that. So, it's one of those language barrier things.
I do apologize to our angry commenter who was very upset.
We should thank him or her for setting us straight. That's cool.
Well, there you go. Yeah. You learn something every day.
Exactly.
So to our Russian listeners, I do apologize.
Yes.
Well, there you go.
No international incidents here, please.
No, and we care about the international listeners,
Yeah.
We're not just, American-centric, North American focused, you know what I mean?
It's a big world out there, people.
Yep.
Lots of movies.
And we
to
love
see.
Russia, never been, and, hoping not to go to war with Russia at any point here, but we do apologize.
Yeah.
Once again. Another really just uplifting, fun book. To tackle, you know what I mean? Another fun one to convince Ash to try to watch,
Oh, did she?
On her. Oh, yeah.
She took the plunge with you on this one?
Well, it's Saturday night. I'm like, we got, Tom Holland. Tom Holland. He's Spider-Man. It's got Robert Pattinson. You know him, you love him. You know what I mean? He's in everything from Twilight to he's the goddamn Batman.
Yeah.
How can you not want to watch a film starring him? Sebastian Stan. You remember The Winter Soldier? Not really. But he's in there. Remember the girl who was in Alice in Wonderland? She played Alice? Oh, yeah. No, she's in there, too. Well, what could go wrong?
Well, I guess you're right. This would probably be, the perfect version of your, date trap. The
Absolutely.
Yeah, this phenomenon that you described the last couple of episodes where it's what can I coax Ash into seeing so she'll hate me forever for forcing her to watch?
And let me just say this, because this is sometimes if you're fans of the series, sometimes we both read the book, sometimes one of us reads the book. This is one where I've read the book and we both seen the film, and let me tell you, this movie makes the book look like a Disney movie or something.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
It's I don't know, I'm trying to remember if we've had one this grim. The book, thinking of ending things is grim in its own ways sometimes, and Hold the Dark was grim, pretty damn grim. But this one is the whole...
This is worse than Hold the Dark, the book was?
Oh, yeah.
Oh. Wow.
Oh, yeah. To me, this one got, with the whole Southern Gothic motifs and everything, this one was right up there with a Cormac McCarthy special.
Okay.
Where, it's the road and the father is talking about, coming to grips with the fact that he might have to smash his son's brains in with a rock so that he doesn't get raped / murdered / eaten by cannibals. This one was right up there, my man, with just the wonderful blood meridian undertones of a Cormac McCarthy special. My man. If you want to,
that really tracks, because when I was watching the movie, it felt like Cormac McCarthy, but a little bit diet Cormac McCarthy.
Oh yeah, West Virginia Cormac McCarthy style.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
yep. And this is I think I have one family member, just for the listening audience. I'd say we're from Virginia, right? Would you say you're from Virginia?
Oh,
I
yeah.
would say.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we spent the majority of our lives there,
Mm-hmm.
right? We grew up there. And I think I have one family member in West Virginia, and I think most of your family is in, Philly, right?
Yeah. I don't have any family members in West Virginia, but like, you know, I've visited there a few times. I've never been to Ohio though, like, but passing through.
I used to live in Ohio. I used to live in Dayton, Ohio, when I was really young, before moving to Virginia. But did you come to our, like, did we go party at West Virginia with Castro?
No,
did you come on that trip?
I always wanted to, but I never made it out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, University of West Virginia is kind of like a fun oasis in the middle of West Virginia, you know, where it's, not exactly the correct picture of what West Virginia is. But
it's wild and wonderful,
we've spent
right?
some time. It is wild and wonderful. My God, it's wild and wonderful. So it hit a little bit too close to home for me, just because it's not that far. Like, I've driven through West Virginia in the hollers,
right?
Quite a bit, on road trips and things like that. So
did it remind you of like cities or towns that you pass by, like on the way there and stuff like that?
Yeah, like as you're kind of going through West Virginia and the hills, and then you get into Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh, the outskirts of Pittsburgh might as well just be West Virginia.
Those are definitely boonies as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I remember eating a KFC Famous Bowl somewhere on the outskirts of Pittsburgh one time, you know what I mean, and thinking, this place sure is something.
Yeah,
we got to get the hell out of here, you know what I mean? So it's can I say I enjoyed the book? I don't know. I found it so soul crushing.
Right.
I would literally just be listening to the audiobook, and I have it at chipmunk speed.
Right.
And I'd be like, I'd have to just take breaks, because there are portions of the book that obviously do not make it into the movie. And I was kind of surprised that certain things made it in, and was not shocked whatsoever that certain things were not included.
Interesting.
But the omissions here and there were kind of interesting, so I think we can dive into them. But this was the first thing I had ever read from David Ray Pollock. I'd heard about his kind of style of writing for a few years, because I think this has been in the works. I mean, I think they shot the movie like in early 2019, and so it's been in 2018 it was already being kind of spoken about, like, hey, we're getting some pretty good cast together to be in this. So this is, the author had kind of been in my sphere of consciousness for a couple of years, but I had never read anything by him, and it gives you a certain like extra tinge of creepiness when he's from the little goddamn town that he's writing about. He's from Knock'em-Stiff, Ohio, where it's just a real place. And his book of short stories that I assume are just little episodic adventures similar to what happens in Devil All the Time.
Yeah.
It gives it a little bit of extra creepiness that he's most likely writing about things he knows pretty well. Mm-hmm. He's basing characters on people he knows, on stories he's heard, on just the life experience and growing up around that time. I don't know how old this gentleman is, but what is he, in his 60s, I think?
He definitely looked it.
He was born in 54, I think. So,
okay.
That would put him at,
close to
just
70.
a little bit, kind of a little bit older or younger than Arvin would be. Or right about that age.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just assumed, especially since I know they picked the actual the writer as an omnipresent narrator, but like it still felt like he was basically Arvin, like looking back at him, like talking about himself in the third person or something.
Right, because I think he'd be, so the beginning of the book starts in 45. Willard comes home. 10 years later, 12 years later, right, would put him right about 55. So he'd be about, 10 years younger, I guess, than Arvin would be, but kind of absolutely kind of grew up in that same era,
right?
Give or take a little bit. So I thought it was really cool that he did the narration for the film. Did you know that?
Yeah. I mean, he's got such a great voice. Like it,
Perfect.
like I never even questioned. I was kind of wondering, like, oh, I don't recognize that actor, but yeah, I mean, it's just looking back on it, you can definitely see like the attachment the voice has to the words, and it really does kind of imbue, those little passages that he reads with a little bit more weight, I think, especially like starting off and everything. It's good at setting the tone and, just kind of throwing you into this like depressing, very Southern Gothic. I feel like when you grow up in a town like Knock'em Stiff, do you think it's as creepy and gross as all of your fictions make it out to be, or is it kind of like you're like, well, I grew up in a place called Knock'em Stiff, so I need to like lean into this, like Southern fried vibe or whatever?
I assume he just kind of like wrote about what he knew and probably grew up reading something, similar, maybe like
Cormac McCarthy or something like that, I feel like
I'm trying to think of like who even earlier than Cormac McCarthy, but I mean McCarthy's old as shit, so he's been putting that stuff out forever. But it's kind of maybe not a happy coincidence, but just that he can kind of get into that weird like noir true crime-ish like, I mean, that Southern Gothic motif,
that vibe in that setting goes so well together, but it's just so strange, like like in the movie it felt like the place is just so dismal, it's like it was realistic, but it's almost like kind of exists in its own little world. I mean, like almost everyone you meet probably because most of the characters you meet in the movie are either like pieces of shit or being totally taken advantage of by absolute terrible people.
And one of the first big departures where the film, I felt like almost anyone who was there was at kind of a glass ceiling of existence where there aren't, and even the little shitty church that they go to, the richest people that were showing up every Sunday to that church, you're probably not that incredibly well off. So in the book, it's a little bit more realistic in my mind, where there's a character that they kind of removed from the film where it's in the segment where it's in the section where Willard is married and Arvin is kind of that 10-year-old boy instead of that kind of like 15 to 18-year-old jump. And his landlord that owns the little house that he and his wife and the young Arvin are living in, every week he goes and makes his rent payment, and it's just kind of a classic slumlord asshole landlord who is a lawyer and basically kind of like taunts Willard every time that he's going to take Willard's hard-earned money, his rent check, basically, and then just blow it on, drinking, or a round of, I'll buy, guys at the club a round of drinks or something with your, but basically just like rubbing it in his face kind of a thing.
What was that? Because the town is like, because they mentioned in like one of the first lines, like they lived there 9 years, but they were still considered outsiders. Like I kind of got the sense the town like didn't like them for some reason. Or
I think because they kind of explained that, because I guess Willard was originally from in Coal Creek, West Virginia, moved up to Meade, where the wife was from, and because I guess it was a little bit nicer, probably not that great, and then that Willard and Arvin were kind of considered outsiders, and that they weren't related to anyone in the community, so which I didn't quite understand, because the wife should be related to someone, right? She didn't just exist there.
Right.
She didn't just pop out of nowhere, right? So I'm trying to remember if what the details of the book. Maybe the she didn't have much family in the area or something, but I think that was their big weird struggle.
Okay.
With fitting in and the whole place with the house and everything, and one of the parts where they discuss that the lawyer kind of gets caught at a country club, and again this is there's obviously some level of wealth in the area. If there's some sort of club, a membership club, where they talk about, members being brought on by someone else, like a country club. I'm not part of a country club, but, they work by like reference, right? Where you like, you can't just drive on up. And isn't that how they kept Jews out of country clubs and everything for years, just because no one would like vouch for them kind of a thing. It was very weird.
It's like that weird exclusivity and like upper crust.
Yeah, you have to be like referred to by
right.
Someone has to pledge you or something, right?
Yeah.
You know. So there's a scene where after Willard beats the shit out of the guys talking out of turn in the woods, because they show it in the movie where those two gentlemen kind of going through the woods, they're hunters. They make some comments about how hot Willard's wife is and what they'd like to do.
She's
and
all
go pay her
alone
visit
at
and all.
home and
and in the book it's longer and more kind of creepy. And Arvin is hearing it, not fully kind of understanding everything, but understands the context because after it's revealed, like, of course, like, they get home and the mom's there and she's fine or whatever. He's relieved that, I came home and my mom isn't like laying on the floor raped and dead. Right. So like,
I was half expecting that scene to be the next one when I saw them too.
And so what I think the film did is they kind of cut. I believe they went from they're out in the woods praying, and then the hunters, and then they come home and they find the mom on the floor. Right.
No.
Is that how they?
I don't think so. Because. Okay. I restarted. I'm pretty sure it's like they came home and the mom's fine and she's like singing. Actually.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I think. Damn, now you got me questioning myself.
No worries. But anyway, so they expedited her kind of.
They just kind of
becoming sick and things like that.
Yeah, they're just trying to compress it and
Yeah. They kind of explained that Willard's wife, Arvin's mother. She was having some uncomfortable, she was having some cramping, some pains. Money was tight. She just wanted to kind of tough it out, hope it would just kind of pass, go away. There was some spotting, there was and it just kind of, and then one day Arvin came home from school and kind of found her, where she had been baking and there's some biscuits, burning in the oven, and they find her and all kind and that kind of thing, and then that explain they go into the whole thing, but kind of leading up to this with the lawyer in the country club, there's kind of this weird subplot where the lawyer, his wife is just out there just slanging it, you know what I mean? And it's like a weird, cruel, joke that like everyone in town has basically banged this guy's wife,
right?
And you name it, from like half the guys in the country club have banged her. The gardener that he just hired is banging her. He went home one day and just finds her bent over the sofa, and he's just he can't decide if he wants to kill himself or he wants to kill her or kill the gardener, or like, so he's trying to figure it out. And so there's this whole subplot where he kind of like propositions Willard to kill his wife or kill him, and to kind of solve some problems for him, and it doesn't exactly
turn out
go that way, right? And then so it was an interesting thing that I thought kind of gave Willard some more screen time.
That would have been cool to see, because I thought Willard played a good part in the movie, but that would have like cemented him more as an important part of the story, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Because as the mother gets sick, they do the film just goes, it goes from, in the book, there's a real ramping up of the praying and the sacrificing and all that good stuff. So it starts with roadkill and squirrels and all kinds of stuff. Things like that, like things that he can find. He basically just like bleeds it and throws it on this weird prayer log. And then at some point he starts buying lambs, and it sucks because Arvin is really excited when he comes home one day with this like baby lamb, who it had like a lame leg, and so he got it cheap from the slaughterhouse or something. And Arvin's like, "Oh, can we name it?" And he's like, man, "This isn't a pet." And he takes it out, and there's this whole scene where he strings the animal up and slits its throat and then bleeds it and then pours the blood, on the prayer log itself, or above, just in the general area. And then it escalates there. And one brutal thing that the movie did was the dog is not a pet in the book. It's
just a random
it's just another
dog.
scene. Yeah, so it's just kind of a random dog and it sucks because it's like, Arvin's home alone or hanging out on the porch or something, and this poor dog, kind of whimpers up to the porch and just, looks like he's hungry and just kind of came and he basically has like an afternoon with this dog, names him, I think it was Tom, or I'm trying to remember the poor Jack the dog. Does that sound right?
I think so.
Names the dog, and then as soon as Willard got home, he just goes, "Oop, another animal for me to sacrifice."
No.
So kills the dog and then nails it to the cross,
Right.
like crucifies it, and Arvin is like devastated can't believe it. What?
It sounds like in the book. First off, what you're telling me, that's like actually great, because I thought in the movie the dog getting nailed to the cross, even though I know they're clearly alluding to the soldier getting nailed to the cross when he was in the war and that traumatic experience. Like, I felt like the dog kind of came out of nowhere, and I know I know they were trying to build this idea of sacrifice, but I feel like if they had included what you were telling me about the roadkill just now, that would have I would have been able to make that connection a little bit more. And secondly, it sounds like Willard has much more is a lot more of just like flat out crazy in the book.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Is he less sympathetic than he is in the movie, or is he?
I think he's less sympathetic because, he ends up killing the lawyer, and just bashing his head in with a tire iron, and because if I recall correctly, and if I'm misremembering this, I apologize, but I think it was kind of a further escalation of the animal sacrifice, human sacrifice. Mm-hmm. Literally, like, this is a weird, crazy, desperate man, is doing everything he can in his mind to save his wife,
right.
Who he, loves more than anything. And it's just like this very weird, creepy scene to kind of omit. But I think including the lawyer and that whole subplot, it probably would have just, you didn't need too much more help getting people to kind of see where Willard was at, but yeah, the whole book, it has certain character, even the protagonist, you'll probably do things that you don't always agree with, that just kind of are upsetting.
Is the book a little bit more disconnected stories too? Because I felt like the movie was kind of like riding a line between like being totally random stories, like all the stories are connected, but like they're still kind of loosely connected. And I was wondering if there's more of that in the book.
Yeah, the book separates things out into parts, where I want to say there were like 7 or 8 parts, and it basically they're section. He does like chapter 53, whatever, but it's kind of broken out more into these larger chunks, and I think the director Antonio Campos, right? He had to do some interesting rearranging and things like. Roy and Theodore Lafferty, kind of the weird traveling preachers.
Yeah.
They were much more weird and creepy in the book, if you can believe that.
Wow.
So they were, in my mind, the way I read it, this, if you read the book, you could disagree with me, but I read it more, they were kind of like traveling con men who just decided that preaching was their most
new
successful grift.
Yeah.
They're just weird grifter people. You know what I mean? They don't go into it in the film, but there's backstory where they spend time picking fruit, on a farm, and they were just doing manual labor. And that's kind of after the events of everything that happens in the film, for the most part.
So they're like going on the lam for a while and shit, like after they kill his wife?
So in the film, it looks like Roy commits the murder, where he's trying to resurrect his wife, and then basically abandons Theodore, and then leaves, and then hops in and is met with Carl and Sandy. But in the book, it's not really like that at all. So basically, the same act takes place, but they just go on the lam. And then there's I want to say years where they just are out trying to make it, everyone assumes, that, he killed her, but they're in the wind, as it were. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's a time where it's referred to. It's not like there's no. I don't believe there's any active scenes, but they were working for a carnival at one point, and Theodore is a pedophile. So
oh, man.
he was basically So
just what this book
the old
needed,
crippled
another
pedophile bit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, dude, let me tell you, it just my heart hurts. I mean, we're watching Dragged Across Concrete here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bone Tomahawk, and bring me whatever you got. We've seen the worst of us. Serbian film. We've seen them all. You know what I mean? But when you're reading these, you're like, oh god. But there's. I want to say it's a great line, but it's brutal. Where the narrator is basically just explaining that they caught Theodore unzipping the fly of like a child, the pants fly of like some little kid and Theodore was trying to convince everyone that he was helping him do up his pants after he went to the bathroom, but even Roy had a hard time giving him the benefit of the doubt on that one.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So it's just brutal to like, you're so creeped out. And in the book, Theodore is becoming like worse. His health is just getting progressively worse and worse. They're not eating great,
Is he becoming more like delusional? I mean, like he's already pretty crazy when he kills his. Oh no, sorry, Theodore's the crippled.
Yeah,
one.
that's Roy, but Theodore is just kind of this weird, creepy. You almost think that Roy could have been a successful grifter con man almost by himself, but because he's kind of weighed down with Theodore, it's just kind of, it makes everything a little bit harder. But
does the book go any more into Theodore? What was he drank strychnine when he became paralyzed or whatever?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to remember. I know they did talk about how he ingested something or other, but I can't remember. But I know they talk about it in the film that it's strychnine, because they were doing like, they couldn't even get snakes, to bite them or something. I mean, why? It's like, dude, you got to drink strychnine.
Right.
That's just
so
another level of trashiness.
It seemed like they kind of changed the characters of the Theodore and Roy to kind of be more like crazy believers. Like it seems like across the board, it's like everyone except for Robert Pattinson, I guess, like believes their own bullshit to their detriment, kind of. Like they do believe that they are being touched by God, and it's like leading to their ruin and the ruin of everyone around them. But it seems like across the board, that's kind of like the deal, right?
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember, because there are genuine moments where Roy in the book thinks that he's trying to do things, or he thinks he has the ability to resurrect his wife. Like that's all very real. It's not a complete con where I don't know if Theodore is like in on the joke the whole time or something. But there's a point where, Theodore just kind of, after years of them on the road, not living well, they're not eating well, they're not taking care of their bodies, and basically the Roy would be out in the fields, like picking fruit, kind of doing things. And they would just, plunk Theodore under a tree somewhere and just let him just sit there.
I mean, that's gotta be a rough, like, I mean, if you're, all you can do is like manual labor for the most part, I'd imagine.
And so in the book, Roy, he comes back in from, I think, getting paid picking fruit or something, and goes to like, hey, go check on Theodore, and he's dead. He finds ants crawling all over him and stuff. So he had died, and then at that point he kind of decides, hey, let's let me go back and see if I can try to figure something out with my my family, my daughter, or whatever. And then at that point he kind of runs into
picked up by the serial killers.
Yeah. Okay. So there's in the movie they kind of make it look like Roy abandons Theodore and leaves him, and then jumps, he kind of went for a pack of cigarettes kind of thing, and just kind of leaves him. And that doesn't really, and then he just kind of finds the nearest hitchhiker, and happens, or, finds a ride with Sandy and Carl. And I'm trying to remember, but I think in the book, Sandy and Carl pick up a number of different people, more people than they do in the movie.
Yeah, it seemed like in the movie they really only had them just starting out, and then like suddenly flash forward to the end of the in the book. Does it kind of check in with them
how many?
more?
Yeah. Like how many times do you need to watch them just brutally murder someone? But in the book, there's a lot of what the Sandy and Carl stories are, and it's formatted similarly to if you ever read the Game of Thrones books, where almost it's like an Arya chapter, and then this one's like a Ned Stark chapter. You know what I mean? Kind of like that. But everything with Carl and Sandy, they pick Roy up, and I think Roy is explaining, because he's just not interested in sleeping with Sandy. Because in the book, Sandy's a little bit more used up. You know what I mean? She's a little bit more rough.
Right.
And so he's kind of like, hey, he's like explaining like, hey, dude, like I'm really not interested. Earlier in the book, they run into more trouble because I think Roy got caught screwing a chicken.
What?
Chicken lover style. Yeah,
what?
Dude.
Seriously?
So I'm pretty sure it was Roy. Yeah, it's a lot to keep track. There's a lot of moving parts in this book, and then he admits like, hey, listen, the last woman I slept with was a chicken. You know what I mean? So, I'm not really, which would make you more interested and desperate, I would assume.
Yeah.
But he kind of uses that like, nah, man, I'm a chicken guy.
Wow.
I
guess once you go cluck, you never go fuck.
Never go back.
Yeah.
But so that was so the formatting was a little bit different, but they end up killing Roy all the same. So one of the interesting things is kind of they kind of repurpose the scene where Roy is looking up at the sky and looking up, and like I think that's what death is like, and just see. I think Roy was in a car when they basically I think they just execute him inside a car.
Okay.
Instead, so there's little differences, little things like that. But Carl and Sandy, Jason Clarke plays Carl, and
Riley.
I thought that was Riley Keough. Yeah. What have we seen her in?
Oh, she's been in everything. She was in Mad Max, she's in Under the Silver Lake. But the thing is, she's Elvis's granddaughter, or something like that. She's Hollywood royalty. But she's been popping up in a bunch of things lately. But also, Jason Clarke. Okay, seriously, how many movies is this now that Jason Clarke is the cuck? Like he's like the go-to guy for sleazy. Spouse.
What was he a cuck in before this?
Serenity. What's it? Great Gatsby.
Never saw
and
it.
At least
Gatsby.
What's up?
Gatsby, he's a cuck.
Oh yeah, totally. Because Gatsby's the woman that Gatsby's in love with, like he's her shitty husband who suspects everything. Ugh. So he does the sleazy husband that suspects that he's being cheated on. I think. Did he do in The Gift too? I'm telling you,
Ted Kennedy, which is another a good casting, in the.
It's strange because he's kind of got it seemed like he was kind of in that leading man pocket for a bit, even being like John Connor in the Terminator movie, no one remembers,
right?
But he looks melty now. He's he's kind of the last few movies he's kind of been rocking a paunch and just trying to look as shitty as possible because it works so well. Like he is very good at that type of role, but it's so strange that he's just like, well, this is what I'm doing. I'm like going full Russell Crowe or something,
Yeah, and I mean, he's kind of from Zero Dark 30. I thought he was going to pop up a little bit more from that.
Totally.
I thought that was kind of a kind of a leading role type thing, even though it wasn't a huge part, but
he was very charismatic though. He has the leading man factor.
I mean, I think Pet Sematary probably really hurt him.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah,
remember he's the dad, and it just
it sucks. I'm sure he did a good job. I just think that he didn't have much to work with. Nobody did, unfortunately.
Well, I think he's better served in this than he would have been in the book, man. I think the most grim details that they've left out are Carl and Sandy related.
Oh, what? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, dude. Well, how horrible can you can you get it?
I mean, you might as well go full.
What they left on the cutting room floor, my man.
Oh my god!
Is just. I mean, there's a scene. I don't even want to talk about it, but there's a.
I was just like, I bet you, this movie would have been that much. Like, I feel like if you're going to go like sleazy, disgusting, you got to go full like Killer Joe with it. And like, I bet you, if it wasn't Spider-Man and Batman and Winter Soldier, like I feel like if you didn't have as many big stars, even though they're all very good in this movie, that's probably why they had to strip out some of the really fucked up stuff. Is it not? I mean, like, even though they're all very good in it,
Well, it's weird because I think the scene, man, it's brutal. Like, Carl is in a diner, and he is flirting with a young waitress, and he just starts bullshitting with her. Oh, I'm a professional photographer. I photograph movie stars. I'm from California, and then it just goes into like. Carl shuddered at the thought of California. You know what I mean? And then it's like, well, and then it just, Carl had lured Sandy out to move to California, promising this and that. He met two gentlemen who wanted to, who were like low level, like disgusting, like porn producers. And basically he coerced and convinced and got Sandy drunk enough to agree to do a porno for like $200, and then they go out to some weird little like cabin or something, and then there's a bunch of dudes there, and oh man, it's horrible. Like he goes, there was a sudden clap. Someone clapped their hands, and out of the bathroom walked a little person, comes out holding a chain which is connected to the neck of a giant man who seems to be mentally handicapped.
Oh, wow.
But very well endowed. And so basically there's some discussion where Carl is like, what's going on? What is this? Blah, blah, blah. And the producers like, or whoever is arranging this, porno or something, are like, arguing with Carl, and they're like, get him out of here. And they basically just pick him up, throw him out, and, he's just, he's like threatened with violence, basically, if he tries to come back in while his wife is just getting murder pounded by this, by this dude. And then after a few hours, they carried her out and threw her into the back of Carl's car and gave him $20.
Jesus Christ.
And he's like, what is this? We agreed on $200. And they go, shit, man, she wasn't worth 10.
Wow.
And then he's like, what? And hell, the second he got it in her forbidden region, she passed out. So, the whole, half the thing is she's unconscious during, and it's, oh, dude, it's,
damn.
It's just like, man, and I'm sitting here listening to this. I think Ash is like working or cooking or something. I go, oh, Ash. And, she's just like, what are you listening to, man? I'm like, dude, I don't even know at this point. It's just soul wrenching, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just hurts your soul to think about like a human being just going through this, you know what I mean? And they're like, well, he took her and put her in a hot bath with Epsom salt and, watch the tub get bloody as, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's just, bro, if you're a fan of the book, or if you're a fan of the film and you're thinking, oh man, I could really use an extra, tinge of horrible. The book might be right up your alley because it'll make you just absolutely shudder and creep. I mean, we're seasoned vets, people. But, we were in the golden age of creepy, weird Mr. Hands videos and shit. You know what I mean? You name it. But I'm listening to this book going, ugh, ooh, I need to go to church.
Just that little snippet right there is like just super gag inducing. Wow.
Yeah. So that was real rough. That was uncomfortable to read. Everything in the movie is just a little. I wouldn't say a little bit, but a lot watered down.
Right, like
versions
it's kind of polished and
yeah. When Arvin is kind of exacting revenge on the bullies that are going after Lenora, it's much more detailed about how he's kind of stalking them and how he's going to, find them. And it's much more graphic kind of about what he does. And he does the thing where, they kind of joke that, hey, I'd put a bag over your head.
Yeah.
I would need a bag over your head for me to get a hard on kind of thing. And in the book, it's explained or something that she's not very pretty, that she's, and I thought the actress was fine. She looks like a normal.
I was gonna say, like, I think
actress,
she's actually a pretty actress, and it's just like Hollywood,
right?
They just
So it's like, it's like where she's
give her a shitty haircut and she's ugly, like,
totally. She's a great looking young girl or something. So she looks like a normal actress, but in the book, they kind of. They make fun of her appearance quite a bit more. That she's very like plain Jane. Arvin's much more protective of her because of kind of how much bullying she kind of gets. And he beats up one of the kids so bad that puts him in the hospital and almost kills him because he put a number of bags over his head, like not just one.
Oh, like suffocating him? Or,
basically, like he was almost like choking to death on his own blood, and like,
damn.
So he's in the hospital, and I think it was pretty clear. It's not exactly a hard mystery to solve. And the kid, obviously, Arvin basically is just going around like sucker punching them. You know what I mean? So just kind of jumping them, where it's not like shouting and then you walk your way over and then you start fist fighting. He's basically just assaulting
sneak
them.
Attack. Yeah,
absolutely. And so he catches one guy. I think in the movie it was great because they're kind of screwing in a bus, but I think it was under the bleachers because basically one of the guys was running around cheating. He was banging the girlfriend of one of like the varsity basketball players, and basically, while he's playing his game, he would like, get his girlfriend out under the bleachers or something. And so he kind of, stalked him and figured out how to do it and whatever. But, one of the guys gets beaten up so bad, and then they put him in the hospital, and he's afraid to admit, like he basically tells the cop that it was, Arvin Russell, right? Arvin, is Russell their last name?
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to go on record saying anything because he didn't want his dad to kind of figure out, why exactly.
Right. Like,
he didn't want to hear Arvin's side of the story, that they had basically been, going after, not just like teasing, but basically assaulting Lenora, and pushing her around and shoving her and pulling her pants down and shit, doing all the weird shit, I think, pulling her dress up and stuff. I don't know. Didn't want that, so he was like, I'll just take a beating, and then and nothing really happens. Arvin doesn't have to answer for it from those bullies. They just kind of leave it like, I assume there would be like family death, like Serbia or something, right? Where there's just weird,
it starts a war between people.
Right?
Yeah.
You know about those weird Baltic countries where there's just those like 100-year-old.
Oh, like
family
like just
death,
beefs that like last generations.
Exactly, right. And there's like, my children are prisoners in their home because they can't go out because they're gonna get killed.
Jesus,
for something my great grandfather did in 1800 something.
Yeah,
but,
like I was expecting. You're right. I was expecting that to totally come back. Like if this was a Stephen King story, there would be a third act where the bully comes back, and then like you have to finally defeat him or something like that. But instead, there's a whole new slew of like horrible things that happened to deal with instead.
Because it brought it almost full circle because when Willard beats the shit out of those kind of the two hunters, one of them is basically never the same again, and they explain that slobbery mess with a mason jar hanging around his neck that he can beg for change with.
Oh wow!
Like that level of
damn, that's pretty bad.
Up. Yeah, so I think they kind of explain that he's really in no condition to exact any sort of revenge. But so that was kind of going back to the lawyer. The lawyer is on the golf course, talking about how he, joking about how he'd like to, take it to Willard's wife, and making kind of one of those bullshit things guys do where they're like, we bet you already banged her for rent money one time, and he goes, I swore I'd never tell, or something, you know what I mean? I promised her I'd never tell. Making those shitty jokes.
Yeah.
And someone overheard him and said, hey dude, you should watch yourself, because that guy just beat the shit out of two guys I know, and they're never going to be right again. You know what I mean? It kind of explaining that they're permanently damaged.
Yeah.
So it kind of, it kind of comes full circle with, what Arvin does to Lenore's bullies, and then kind of sets it up with the eventual unpleasantness with Teagarden and everything. But I thought Teagarden, Pattinson kind of did a great job. The grooming in the film is a lot more logical in my mind, but in the book he's kind of described as kind of like a younger guy, which Pattinson's still on the younger side of everything, right? But kind of like this gross, weird, fat, like kind of not Robert Pattinson,
yeah, like
more of like
opposite.
Yeah, like he has to use every trick in the book to kind of do a lot of his creepy shit with his influence and everything.
Right,
but,
so he is more reliant on his status in order to be a creepy pedophile rather than in any way being considered attractive or anything like that.
Right, exactly, right. So he pulls out all these weird tricks, and I think her name is Cynthia, is his wife, right? And I think she's quite a bit younger than he is, and she's also very uneducated, not too smart, and there's a lot of talk about how he basically trains her like a dog, like snaps his fingers and has her like trained. And there's a joke, and I don't know if it was a joke or if it was serious, but there's a line that was like, sooner or later, Teagarden would have to teach her how to read, or would finally have to get around to teaching her how to read.
Wow.
Something like that, just kind of explaining that she was not very well educated and not, very impressionable, very quiet. In the movie, I don't think she has a goddamn line in the whole thing. She's like sitting in the back.
Yeah, she's in the background of one scene, and like I think that's it. And yeah, she definitely did not look like, she looked like a very standard looking wife, like not young or stupid or anything like that,
Right. Just kind of, someone who, I don't know, he just kind of found or something. But
yeah,
it was brutal. In the book, they just describe him as kind of this weird, incredibly creepy. I don't want to kink shame or anything, you know what I mean? Who are we to judge? But I mean, just really weird and fucked up creepy. You know what I mean? Kind of into the weird sexual stuff.
Right.
All kinds of weird shit,
Well,
and they kind of touch on it in the movie, but Pattinson's only going to agree to do so much, I would think,
I don't know, man. I still always remember when you were the one that convinced me to go see Good Time when it came out, and we saw it together. But I just always remember you had told me at some point in the movie Robert Pattinson was gonna fuck a dog. And the entire movie, I was like, this is really great. But when's he going to fuck this dog? And it never happened. But so I always have this weird association with... And
I forgot about the dog.
Did you remember? Yeah. Like I think it was like one of those things that was like rumored and it just didn't end up being that way. But like, I always have this association...
He has to masturbate the dog or something?
Or something like, like I just remember...
It's not like... I don't think he's like motivated to do it. He does it out of like... some weird desperate measure or something, right?
Well, see, that's the thing is like that wasn't in the movie, but I was expecting that the whole time. Maybe he did in a different movie, I don't know, but I just always have this like association with Robert Pattinson fucking a dog at some point. But like I keep on thinking like that's gonna be your like, that's the thing that gets you your Oscar. That's like,
oh yeah,
you know what I mean? You always have to do some sort of gauntlet to prove that you're serious.
I'm gonna top myself this time. Yeah, like. You always got to show your ass at the bodega, you know what I mean, if you're trying to buy weed.
Dude, it's just like, like sometimes they'll just give you an Oscar for like how grueling a feat, it's like if you lose a bunch of weight or if you like survive in the wilderness on nothing but rocks for, 5 months or something like that, then a lot of people do that to get Oscars and stuff.
But I thought Teagarden, Pattinson was good at his...
Yeah, he stole the show for sure.
Yeah, apparently, like, locked himself away, wouldn't reveal what his accent was going to be. I was trying to, like, the director, I was watching a bunch of stuff with him, and he's like, everyone else worked with coaches, and everyone else had sent me, video recordings and stuff of what they were gonna do for the accent, because I think, is it Jason Clarke? I mean, he's an Aussie. Pattinson's English. Tom Holland's English. Mia Wasikowski where's she from? She's not American, I don't think.
I think she actually is.
Is she?
Yeah, I think she might just be like it sounds Russian or some sort of Polish or something like that, but I'm not entirely sure.
I thought she was.
But yeah, isn't Sebastian
pretty international crowd?
Yeah, it's like
weird accents.
Yeah, galore.
So Pattinson was just like, I'm not. He apparently no one knew what his accent was going to be like until they literally filmed the first day, or his first day of filming. He like revealed it, but didn't want to. He was like so scared or self-conscious about it or something like that. But Pattinson is just a weirdo, dude.
Dude, he's
great.
Killing it. Like, I'm so like literally every movie he's in now, it's like he's hit that status where he like is stealing every scene he's in, and like he can like kind of carry a movie that's not that good if he needs to.
Yeah, I think I gotta catch Waiting for the Barbarians. Have you seen that with Johnny Depp?
I saw the trailer for it.
Okay.
But
yeah, I think Pattinson's in that.
Yeah, I definitely
with what's his name? Who won the Oscar?
The guy that always works with Spielberg, Mark Rylance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's Rylance, Johnny Depp, and Pattinson. Play like colonial African English soldiers or something like that. So
it looked kind of dull. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I'm sure it'll be like Four Feathers or something. It'll be kind of along those lines. But I'll give it a shot. But he much more convincing in the movie. But in the movie, it really settles on him and Lenora's relationship. But in the book, he's banging. He's got a slew.
Oh, really?
He's working on.
Are they all like underage and everything like that? Or
yeah. Dude. Yeah. So like, there's a scene where he kind of gets confronted. So it's interesting. So Arvin, in the book, it kind of explains how he stalks the three bullies and then exacts revenge. And then he kind of does the same thing with Teagarden, where he's stalking him and following him and learning his habits. And he creates. So in the book, Teagarden will, I guess in the film too, like he kind of drives them out into like a secluded area and then just gets down to it, So Tom Holland literally like builds like a deer blind, like he would go hunting with, and like starts spying on him, learns his whole routine. And, in the film, like Holland kind of explains that that's what he's been doing, but kind of in the book, you're there. Yeah. And Teagarden gets confronted by another girl who he's banging, but he's also banging her little sister. Ugh. And the little sister is pregnant. And then went to the mom, and the mom is like pissed and gonna go to the sheriff or something, but doesn't know. No, like I guess the little sister revealed everything, so he's fucked. Like, he's good and fucked. So Lenora is one thing, but then
he was gonna get screwed anyways from
So like something bad is gonna happen, no matter what. Just because he's just running around on these like 13-year-old girls. I mean, and I want to say in the book he's supposed to be a little bit older than whatever Pattinson kind of comes off as.
Right.
I don't know what Pattinson's age range on the low end is these days, but I would say like mid-20s maybe. Like, who knows, right?
Yeah, even if he's older, I think he still reads as mid-20s to me. Yeah.
I mean, you shave him down and whatever, but it was interesting because he gets the Luger, or Arvin gets the Luger for his 15th birthday, and then the events when he's doing all this killing with the Luger, it's like 3 years later. But in the movie, it makes him look like he doesn't know what he's doing with the gun. He's doing some like double cocking, like he's doing some weird rookie like gun shit where like you don't know how to work this thing. You know what I mean? But in the book,
they never show him like using it before the end in the movie. Right?
Yeah. And so like in the book, he's running around like headshotting squirrels with it. Like he's good with it. You know what I mean? So that was a weird thing to kind of, I guess, to just add some added tension maybe to kind of create like, hey, maybe Arvin's not going to just headshot Sandy in this car or, Lee Bodecker or whatever. You know what I mean? So, just another weird little change that the whole scene where he kills Teagarden, that's all in his car, kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and like drags his body into the woods and that kind of thing. So it kind of raised the stakes in the movie of kind of killing him where he's obviously going to be found.
Right,
there.
right.
So
he actually has some time to get away
out
in the book, and like there's some premeditation to it. It seemed like in the movie he just kind of grabbed the gun and like killed him on impulse almost,
Right. Like I think in the book it's much more Arvin is going to just pick his time of when he's going to kill him. And in the movie, I think he's like, I'm definitely going to confront him, and I just happen to end up killing him. That's the vibe that I got. Where in the book, it's more like, how am I going to kill him? Well, let's do it here. Let's do it this way. Let's do it. It's much more premeditated and well more thought out. But yeah, in the movie, it makes it seem like he kind of, goes about it on the fly, but he's mindful enough to like pick up his shell cartridges, things like that. But he's not mindful enough to not kill him with a well-known gun that you're well-known to have. Yeah, you know what I mean. So it's not like
I would like, once again, all this stuff that you're telling me. I honestly, some of the rough stuff you're telling me about the couple of serial killers, I probably can definitely understand why they cut that. But things like this, like the Arvin's characterization is a little bit more of a I don't know, like a soldier, like his dad, like kind of, I feel like that would have made it more interesting, because Tom Holland was very good in the movie, but he still read a lot as like Tom Holland really has to work around his like Spider-Man persona, because I feel like even though he's like smoking cigarettes and is a little bit of a greaser and he's like scrappy in it, like I'm still reading that kind of like innocent vibe, which is like,
right,
I think goes against the material a little bit. Like, you don't want him to be too bushy-tailed around the edges or whatever, you know what I mean? Like
right. Yeah, I mean, I saw a great interview with him where he was like, oh, I really wanted to do this because it's completely not Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It is not Spider-Man. He's like, he did his Spider-Man impression where he's like, everyone expects me to talk like this and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And he's like, I can talk in a lower register. I'm talking, the subject matter is very different. Like, he just kind of explained why this role was interesting to him. And I would totally imagine, because I bet everything's sliding across his desk, is not
he's a scrappy
one of the
young
most grim
go-getter.
books that,
Yeah.
It's like, hey, do you want to be, I don't know, Chaos Walking? Like, I haven't read that book yet.
Yeah.
I don't know what that character's like. I don't know.
He's a scrappy young, teenager.
Right. And then, he's been the voice in some stuff, right? Where he was in Onward, or what was the Disney, the Pixar?
Onward.
Onward, right?
Yeah, with Chris Pratt.
Where he's just kind of a dorky teenager, So I bet he's, and I think what you're looking at, basically a Christian Slater-esque man baby, where he is just kind of, he's gonna be 5'6" or whatever. You know what I mean? He's not. This might be it. You know what I mean? He might be like 28 years old, pretty much looking like that. You know what I mean? So he might be able to play Spider-Man until he's 50, like Mickey Rooney or something.
Sure, that's like the Marvel's injecting him with like reverse steroids to keep him at his precise.
Just keep him short and tiny.
Having him sleep in like Tupperware at night so he stays fresh.
Right. They just need a non-Robert Downey Jr.-esque spiral into drugs and hookers and cocaine and everything. But I think he'll be all right.
Yeah.
But
he seems like a smart kid.
Did you know that Chris Evans was originally going to be the sheriff?
They were going to have another fucking Marvel stable.
Leo Bodecker.
Oh, wait. So instead they gave it to Winter Soldier?
They did.
So, wow.
Sebastian Stan, right? What was it? Is that it?
Yeah, that's
Sebastian Stan. I can't believe that's a real name. Sebastian Stan.
Yeah, that sounds like a superhero name.
He jumped on the chance, and then the director was like, he was great because it was just a scheduling conflict. But Chris Evans was supposed to do it.
Was Chris Evans going to gain all the weight? Like, it seems.
I guess you were. Yeah. So he was like, the director said, "Hey, Sebastian Stan was great because he agreed to gain a bunch of weight real quick." And I imagine just hanging up the phone and being like, "All right, let's get to work."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You've done all the Marvel.
Honey, I'm
remember when
going
he walks out
to
and
Krispy Kreme.
yeah, he's like, "Stop everything! What are you cooking? Chicken?
Yeah.
No, put that down."
He's got to do
we're
the
hitting
Homer
Sizzler.
Simpson test where you rub the sandwich on the wall, and if you see through it.
Absolutely. But no, because he's one of those guys he's done the whole ripped thing,
Yeah.
and then in I, Tonya, he was pretty skinny in that.
I forgot
he was
he
kind
was
of like
in
weird,
that.
creepy
Yeah,
skinny,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, he was good in that.
So I mean, I thought he had a fat suit on or something when I'm watching him in this thing, because he's like, oh god.
The one thing was, like, when I saw him, like, I didn't realize it was Sebastian Stan at first, because his character kind of comes on, like, randomly. Like, there's, like, the whole introduction where he's getting jerked off in the car.
Right.
But, like, even then, like, when I was, like, first looking at him, like, I could tell he was fat, but he's still got, like, really chiseled cheekbones. Like, you can tell he's, like, still somebody that clearly works out all the time. And, like, it feels
he's
like...
not quite as method as a Christian Bale, let's say.
Well, and the other thing I hear that they do, even if he was trying to go method, is, like, I think what they do is they shoot you full of, like silicone or some sort of, like, liquid, not silicone, but, like, some sort of liquid to kind of, like, inflate your body a little bit more. Like, that's, like, a quick way to kind of, like, right before you start shooting, like... make you look puffier, and that's kind of how it read to me a little bit. Like he definitely did a good job, and he looked the part, but he still kind of had that like chiseled features in the face that I feel like balding, or like
yeah, because they do a time jump, right, where they show him.
Yeah,
I guess they introduce him as getting the call, right? He's getting handy in the car, the old fashioned.
Yeah,
and then he gets the call to go help Arvin after Willard kills himself. And so there's that time jump where you see kind of a younger Bodecker, and then you see the older Bodecker, kind of when Sally and Carl are out doing their damn thing, and then the brutal scene where Carl and Sandy meet, where she's just a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed young waitress, and then you know where it all goes after that. You're just like, oh god damn it. But they did some things with Lee that were different, where. In the movie, I thought it was great because he kind of kills the two gangsters, the bodyguard and then Leroy, the gangster. And in the book, I don't remember that. I don't think that happens. And I think they, because Leroy is this like local gangster who owns the bar, the Tecumseh, where Sandy is whoring out of. She's one of a stable of whores. She's kind of the head bartender, but also like... She'll just bang like random. Yeah, dude. The book is so
that's
messed
all
up.
that was going, because like the movie is very vague about like you kind of get the idea that yes, there is a whorehouse in back, but like all they show is that like slow dolly into the deer over the door, and they never actually like show you the room. Right.
So there's all kinds of unspeakable things happening.
Yeah.
And Sandy's just giving it away for free. Like, I mean, I guess she does charge a guy $20. There's a scene where a guy pays her $20. Oh, dude, it's brutal. She's getting banged over the bar or a pool table, and she has his like $20 bill. Maybe it's $10, dude. I can't even remember. And she's just gripping the bill so tight that like by the end, like there's a line that was like, by the end the ball was just a wet, a wet mashed up bill, squeezed in the palm of her hand type thing. And talking about how hard the guy was breathing, and and then just getting banged in like the kitchen by another guy, where they're getting flour all over themselves, and but going back to Lee, I think the scene that they use in the book to demonstrate kind of what a kind of ruthless, corrupt cop he is that the owner of the Tecumseh, the bar, Leroy basically assigns Lee to kill a client who, basically messed up one of the the girls.
The girls, yeah.
Messed her up pretty good, and dude, like they go into like what did he do to her? You know what I mean? And he's like, cost $300 at the hospital to put everything back up inside her.
Jesus.
And I was like, oh god, dude. You know what I mean? Like, can I just not? I don't want to hear about like. I mean, Hook. I think a clothes hanger was involved. Man.
No.
It was just no.
I am
It's just,
so
man,
this must have been so grueling to read. I'm so glad I missed out on this one.
I think it's like a 10 or 11 hour book or something. But damn, dude, pound for pound, hour for hour, you're just like, can this just stop? Can we just be done? You know what I mean? Like it's brutal, man. I mean, I'm trying to think, but that was a fun change where you didn't have to relive that horrible moment, and instead you get to see kind of a fun, cool, weird assassination, Departed style almost or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where he's just kind of running around closing out loose ends and stuff, and you want to root for him after taking that spit dollar, to wiping that spit dollar off, but just kind of a weird, desperate man, I like that whole, the final act where the book is a little bit more confusing about like how Bodecker kind of figures it out, and he goes and tracks down Arvin and all that stuff. And in the book, the movie perfectly kind of you can understand the situation.
Yeah, the logic is pretty streamlined.
Yeah, it just reads a little bit different. It's kind of weird, but I thought the film was great where Arvin is like testing him, kind of spooking him and understanding obviously that the motivations are to kind of kill him and cover everything up and all that stuff. But I liked the movie ending much better because Arvin was originally there because he wanted to kind of take care of that dog and bury him and everything like that. In the film too, he kind of goes and does that. And the same thing, he kind of decides to bury the gun, as well after the whole Bodecker thing. And then the book just ends there. The book ends. I think the last line of the book is like, Arvin hoped that maybe somebody would be nice enough to give him a ride. And then the book ends. Oh. And I really like that kind of final bit where he goes and he is, gets picked up by kind of the hippie in the Volkswagen van and just collapses in exhaustion almost,
right.
Of like, I kind of finally feel safe.
And I liked his like kind of starting to daydream about kind of the two different possible paths his life could take and how it kind of doesn't land on either one. Or it's kind of reminded me a bit of the end of Raising Arizona, where it's just like kind of like a fantasy sequence, and you're not sure if it's real or not. And it's like I thought the ending of the movie in general did kind of give it a nice symmetry to the opening. Like I did feel like you do see echoes of his dad in him, and you're kind of wondering if he's going to be like repeating the same things that happened to his dad, or is he going to find peace and like kind of break the cycle of violence and everything like that. And I like that it doesn't land on either,
Right. And it could have been all of the above, right? Like he could have gone to Cincinnati, enlisted in the army, come back, done the little family. Like I didn't see those little weird cutscene things as mutually exclusive, maybe just like little flashes of what could happen or is going to happen, or just fantasizing on kind of doing the
like where your
same
life
exact
takes you
things,
kind of thing. Yeah.
But I thought it played really well of just the absolute like desperation of what are you gonna do? Like you're an 18-year-old that's just committed like 3 murders. How many murders did he commit? 4. He killed 4 people in what, a day and a half or something?
Yeah.
2 days.
And it's like
so
very clearly him. It's not like they're like, oh, it might be somebody else. It's like, no, we got a note and like a gun and all this other stuff.
Right. And I guess he could just kind of disappear in a way. I guess I thought, wow, what a time to be alive. Like for serial killing and murder in general, what a time to be alive.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like
it's so much easier.
Yeah, like if I was him, I would be like, yeah, like I feel like 4 murders is still pushing it. Like you better keep a low profile after that,
Right. I'd be
no more. That's it for your murder quota.
Yeah, 4 is enough. You know what I mean? But You could definitely see him just disappearing into the deep south or Louisiana, or catching a merchant ship, or becoming like an Alaskan king crab fisherman or something. Like, I feel like in the 60s, 70s, because that was early 70s, right? It was like 73 or something. You could just kind of disappear.
That's like, starting to get towards the end of that period. I feel like once you start hitting the 80s, I would say it like really starts getting a little bit harder. And then nowadays, how I miss the days when you could commit serial murder and then just kind of become a fisherman for the rest of your life.
Well, I just thought it was wild that like this little town has, I guess a region, because Sandy and Carl are just kind of driving up and down, and they had all these rules. In the movie, they don't really talk about it. Where
how long are they supposed to have been doing their thing for?
Years,
like a decade, or like it does seem like it's been.
I think like at least a decade.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, because right. So I mean, to be that prolific and successful, and then not get caught. And I understand there's the whole Lee Bodecker factor, where he, at some point, he kind of figures out, and I overlooked this in the book, but apparently it's the same thing, where Bodecker kind of discovers that it's them.
Does he try to sweep it under the rug or something?
Yeah, and then just kind of ignores it, right?
Yeah.
And then he kind of goes and cleans out all their evidence, and he kind of sees the extent.
Yeah.
But to me, like, I forgot, I didn't realize that reading the book, that he had kind of that preliminary moment where he figured out, like, oh, all these people, but it kind of immediately makes it clear that his motivation would not be, obviously, to make it appear that his sister is right underneath his nose.
Yeah.
Running around doing all this, where he's running for sheriff every year or whatever, every term or whatever, right? So, I mean, I think it does a great job of kind of, explaining his motivations, obviously. And
I never questioned, like, once they had the scene where it's like makes it clear that they're siblings, like, it kind of, there's a lot of things that you can just assume, and like I kind of don't question a lot of the logic, because I feel like that him being the sheriff explains a lot. Though I do have to admit, the scene where they kind of introduce that fact, where it's like the first time you see them together in a scene, like they do that thing where like you'll see people like some movies do that, where it's like you have to like establish that they're siblings, so they'll be like, I don't know, brother, what do you think, sis? Like going, just kind of underlining that part just so and everything. But I did like that they kind of introduced that fact, and once I knew they were related, I kind of was like, okay, that I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of helped sweep things under the rug, because he also seems like he doesn't want to deal with that stuff. Like, it doesn't seem like he has a great relationship with his sister, but at the same time, it seems like he cares more about his political career than anything else.
Yeah, well, I mean, she's really she's a spur in his hide. I'm trying to remember the exact the colloquial saying, but imagine having a whore sister running around just banging everything, and then doing a little serial killing on the side,
right,
as you're the goddamn sheriff. It's not great. So I mean, in the book, it's much more emphasized how distasteful he is of everything that is going on with just her life in general, being married to Carl, who by all accounts is either turning her out or letting her actively whore. And then in the book, it's explained that, like, I think two characters are talking, or it's narration. I'm trying to remember but it's like, there used to be a time where, a man down on his luck or behind and whatever could whore his wife out for, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, was that a thing? You could just whore your wife out if need be? You know what I mean?
How does that...
Like a rented mule or something, you know what I mean? I was like, I wasn't aware. But it's just the dark themes explained in this book about the cultural norms in either the region or the time and the combination thereof.
Yeah.
You're just like, Jesus, man. I feel like I could have lived the rest of my life not knowing some of this.
Oh, totally. You don't want to go visit Knock'emstiff now? I'm sure there are going to be tons of tours now after the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I've driven across country so many times, like, I don't know, 5 times maybe. I've just moved, back and forth, and it's always through this. It's always through the South, and it's always, because that's the fastest, way to do it. It's always through like the Southwest, through Arizona, and then down through like Texas, and down through like Arkansas, and man, it's just grim out there. And you pass through these towns, and in the back of your mind, like, there's a lot of weird, crazy shit that must go on in places like this, but you just keep driving, and
yeah. But I mean, like this book seems like it's like that's kind of like what I was talking about before. Is like, I know there's all of this is probably a lot of stuff is probably taken from real life, but like the way it's all kind of like packed into like one really depressing, icky package, like so tightly, that's what makes it seem like, how can one little middle of nowhere, or I guess 2 little middle of nowhere towns, be just so full of, sin and the devil and all that stuff.
Did this talk make you impassioned into thinking about reading that book?
Definitely not. I'm so glad I did not manage to make it to read this one around. So, but I did, what you were telling me actually did kind of enlighten me more about the movie, because I felt like I liked it, but it did leave me a little cold, and I did feel like there were things that left me wanting a little bit more, such as, Arvin's character. I wanted to know more about him, and just like certain things that it sounds like the book had time to flesh out. I did find myself craving that a little bit, but on the other hand, like some of the other stuff you were describing, specifically the stuff with Carl and all that, I'm actually pretty okay with not having had to have read or watch that. So
yeah, I'll give you one other thing. I just remembered that the black cigarettes, they're like cigarellos, like little black cigars. He calls them dog dicks. So he's like, throw me a dog dick.
Oh,
or
man.
Carl left. Like, it's just referred to as dog dicks.
He's such a classy gent.
Yeah, it like the narrator's just like, yeah, Carl went outside, grabbed a dog dick, and had, blah, blah, like, and you're just like, God damn it, dude. God, we're done. We're out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
I usually have a strong stomach for this sort of stuff, but this sounds like pretty rough.
The film mercifully glossed over a lot of the mom cancer death.
Oh, okay.
But it is dragged out in the book, and it's horrible, man. Imagine dying slowly and painfully of cancer in a shack.
Right, and all you have is morphine or something.
Oh,
yeah.
So it was not great. I mean, and then, Arvin and Willard are not eating well. They're eating like, no one's cooking, no one's cleaning.
Right.
There was a line that's like, they didn't even bathe anymore. Like,
yeah.
The smell of the bedroom that she was dying in. I mean, it's, bro,
Oof.
you're just like, get me out of here. Just hit the ejector seat. You know what I mean? Let's just be done.
So,
but honestly,
like having read the book and seen the movie, like how do you feel? The other thing I was wondering when I was watching the movie is like, what did I get out of this aside from religion bad? Do you feel like did you enjoy it overall? Even though I know enjoy is not the word, but do you think it was like worthwhile experience?
Yeah, I think the book is, if you enjoy Cormac McCarthy, I think you would like the book. I think the movie was really well done, really. I needed a palate cleanser after it. I had prepared for worse, given the context of the book.
Right.
I thought it was a really interesting choice I'm always fascinated by how, because I know Jake Gyllenhaal produced the movie.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and thought it odd that he wasn't going to then star in it.
Right.
But I'm always fascinated by the big ensemble cast movies
when you get like the hottest actors all over pretty much.
Right. And what attracts them to this, and maybe it's a charismatic producer or a charismatic director, or the screenplay is great, or it's a very famous, well-known book, which to me, that's not really the case. I mean, the book's only been out for 8-9 years. And I know
I'd never heard of it before this movie.
No,
came
I mean,
out.
not really. I hadn't heard of it before it was being
like talked about being made
being adapted.
Well, when I
so
was watching this, like it kind of just, especially because there was the presence of so many like mega stars in the movie, like it made me think like, like back in the 90s, you always had to do like a Southern fried drama to establish your seriousness as an actor.
Like Mississippi Burning,
exactly,
or
what
was the Edward Norton one?
There was an Edward. I don't know. There was a bunch.
What's the one where he's like the Southern lawyer?
Primal Fear, right? Or
Primal
he's the guy
Fear.
that's on trial. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But like that's like kind of like was very much a thing. I feel like up until, I don't know, about like 10 years ago or something. And it kind of like, that's one of the things I liked about this movie is like, it felt like kind of that throwback. Like, I mean, that I feel like also ties in with Pattinson's kind of like the projects he's picking lately. Cause like, he's winding up, you wind up to Batman or you wind up to a reconnaissance or something like that. So this is like one of the types of roles that you would want to have if you were kind of winding up to your Oscar or really big superstardom role or something like that. Like it's like a good, you get to kind of chew the scenery a little bit. And, same thing. I feel like there's like a weird, like a lot of British actors or like to try to do a nice Southern accent movie at some point. It's kind of like a something you do to prove that you're an actor of worth or something.
The old Tom Hardy did the Lawless, right? Was that sort of Southern accent?
Oh yeah. He's done a few Southern accents, I feel like, but he's the talk about somebody that trades in bad accents, or not bad but weird accents, but yeah, it was definitely I don't know what I'd want to say though, because it's like I did not quite enjoy it, but I liked it, and I don't know. I kept on trying to wonder, like, okay, what makes a Coen brother movie? Like, what makes me like kind of
a lot of Fargo-esque type stuff going on.
Yeah, but the one thing is, like, I feel like this movie, like, because it's so harsh, like Fargo throws in those like little bits of levity. Even like, I think like No Country. Like I felt like I needed them to kind of like have like some moment of levity, like one or two more. So like when You Destroy My Soul, it's like I feel that a little bit more. Like once you're like pounded into just oblivion over the course of the movie.
No, I agree. Like even what's his name, homeboy getting wood chippered is almost a little bit funny. There's certain parts that are kind of humorous.
Yeah.
Whereas
even if
this,
it's like
I'm
pitch
trying
black.
to. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember anything that was funny.
I mean, I guess Robert Pattinson, like, sticking his fingers in the chicken livers, which is so nasty. Like, that kind of made me laugh, but, like, more out of disgust. And probably, if I laughed in this movie, it's probably, like, a mirthful laugh or whatever,
Yeah. Well, there you go. It's not doing super well. I just checked Rotten Tomatoes, 65%. So it's kind of hit or miss. Like you would assume for a big stars like that. I mean, Rotten Tomatoes will give out 100% for
especially for
nothing these
Netflix.
days.
Like I feel like Netflix, you get an extra 5 points just for that.
Yeah, well, you get a ton of reviews if it's widely available. Yeah. Everyone's got Netflix.
Totally.
All those, professional vlogger reviewed people can have access to it. So I was a little surprised to see, because I thought it earned a little bit better than that, honestly. I haven't read the reviews. I don't know why people didn't seem to enjoy it or click with it, but I'm always fascinated by the insanity of Rotten Tomatoes. So
I don't get how some of it, like, that's the thing, is you always have like crazy people that skew your algorithm a little bit. So that's why I don't trust. I usually don't try to trust those numbers too much. It's still not as bad as like CinemaScore. I feel like CinemaScore is like fucking crazy. Like the things that are good and bad there.
I think there's a lot of people that are like subject matter is uncomfortable equals I do not recommend.
A good time. Yeah.
Where instead of, well, what is it, a quality product? I don't really care what the subject matter is. I don't care if it's Trolls World Tour.
Right.
Like if it's a well done movie or something, I would go thumbs up instead of thumbs down, right? But I think there's a lot of people that are just like, I didn't like. I felt uncomfortable during it, so then therefore it's not a good movie. Like every movie should leave you feeling warm and fuzzy. Which
yeah, I mean, I understand. Like some people don't go there. If Devil All the Time isn't your cup of tea, I'm not gonna hold it against you. But yeah, I do agree. I think that does kind of ruin the skew for some things because. Just some people are going to be predisposed to some things. So if it's like not a genre you like or not your cup of tea, then you're probably not going to like the movie, and that's going to like screw up the algorithm or whatever. So,
well, there you go.
Yeah.
So we're on to the next one. We'll find the next one.
There's plenty of other books to read, and I'm sure there's more movies coming out on streaming sometime soon. So,
well, thanks so much for listening, guys. We appreciate it. If you like the discussion, check out some of our other We Read the Book episodes. We just did I'm Thinking of Ending Things. Available on Netflix. Check out the book. Pretty short book.
It's a good double feature for depressing Netflix movies based on depressing books, so
absolutely
it makes you want to kill yourself in two totally different ways.
Absolutely, you can spend hours listening to us talk about how depressing some of these books are. But we appreciate you guys listening. Thanks so much. Give us a like, hit subscribe if you would like to hear more, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks.
See ya.